Hello and welcome to NDTV.com's YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/NDTV. I'm Gargi Raut and this is News of the Hour. Now in this special show, we actually poll the viewers and we put 5 top stories onto our YouTube channel, and you get to vote which story you want to know more about. So as you can see today, we've had these 5 stories. One is UP Hindu group leaders murder, 2 alleged killers arrested. That's Kamlesh Tiwari's murder in Lucknow on the 18th of October, and 2 alleged murders have been arrested from near the Gujarat border. In fact, they belong to Surat. So now 5 out of the 6 alleged murderers who've actually been arrested are all from Surat. So there's this strange Surat connection to this murder. But the top story right now, and even above Saurav Ganguly taking charge as the BCCI chief today, which I would have thought many of you would vote for and would have been more popular given the popularity of Saurav Ganguly in cricket. But the top story seems to be the Kashmir situation, humanitarian crisis, says the US. So let's just take a look at this particular story. There was a US House meeting and a hearing on the situation in Kashmir, where a group of US lawmakers actually discussed Kashmir. There were Indian journalists who spoke at this hearing, US House hearing, it was a congressional subcommittee on human rights in South Asia. And many of the US lawmakers expressed concern about the situation in Jammu and Kashmir, about the lockdown that we're seeing there, and also about human rights in Jammu and Kashmir. And they said that the leaders who've been arrested, remember there have been many arrests, and they said the leaders who've been arrested, which includes 3 former chief ministers of Jammu and Kashmir, must be released, and also internet must be restored. Remember, while mobile phones have been partially restored, landlines have been restored, but internet has not been restored just yet. And the US House Committee the US lawmakers calling on the restoration of the internet, as well as the release of these prisoners, of these leaders who've been taken into custody. But at the same time, walking that diplomatic tightrope, they had some strong words about Pakistan as well. Remember, India has accused Pakistan of pushing terrorists into Kashmir, of trying to destabilize the situation there. So the US lawmakers also speaking about Pakistan's meddling in Kashmir, saying that Jammu and Kashmir was an internal matter of India, and that Pakistan should take action against terror groups like the Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed, and also about Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan speaking constantly about Kashmir, given the problems that they are facing, the challenges that they're facing in Pakistan itself, as well as terror attacks in Pakistan itself. So one US lawmaker even saying that first, set your own house in order before you talk about the neighbors. So that was an interesting aspect. But yes, calling it a humanitarian crisis. US expressing concern on Kashmir, but at the same time slamming Pakistan for backing terror. But interestingly, at the same time, they also welcome the centre's actions, to normalize the situation in Jammu and Kashmir and remove Article 370, because it was an issue in Parliament where you had even opposition members supporting. Remember, Congress also supported the abrogation or the removal of special status to Jammu and Kashmir. So that is something that they said, yes, that is welcome, but at the same time, the human rights issue is a concern. This lockdown in the valley is a concern, that that they support the development objectives of India's move to abrogate Article 370. But at the same time, the fact that there's this lockdown, that things are not normal, that children are not going to schools, they're saying that they support the Kashmir's right to hold peaceful protests as well. So talking about the concerns there, and talking about how it's been so many days since this crackdown and since this lockdown in Jammu and Kashmir. Now another aspect that has been actually trending as well has been a journalist. Now Aarti Tikku Singh was a journalist who spoke at this congressional hearing, and she is a journalist with the Times of India, and she's somebody who's reported on Kashmir for a long time, and she spoke about the situation. She said that Kashmiri Muslims have suffered the most from terror attacks, but she also accused that human rights activists, Western activists, and even the foreign media has overlooked 30 years of terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir that was sponsored by Pakistan. So she had some strong words about that. She spoke about this entire issue. She spoke about how a number of Kashmiri Muslims have been killed in the past couple of decades, and how 30 years of Islamic jihad and terror in Kashmir perpetrated by Pakistan, she said, have been completely ignored and overlooked by the world. There was also an interesting interaction that she had with US Congresswoman, Democrat left leader Ilhan Omar, who had some words for Aarti Tikku, in which she seemed to suggest, that the journalist was not being absolutely fair in what she was recounting to the House, that she said that she was making incredibly dubious claims. She says that missing a reporter's job is to find the objective truth about what's happening and report it to the public. You have enormous audience at the Times of India and have enormous responsibility. She says, I'm aware of how the narrative shaped by reporting can distort the truth. I'm also aware of how it could be limited to sharing only the official side of the story. The press is at its worst when it is a mouthpiece for the government. So there you can see some strong words from the Congresswoman. She says, in your version of the story, the only problems in Kashmir are caused by what you call militants, the only people protesting to break away from India, and are all nefariously backed by Pakistan. And she says, you also make an incredibly dubious claim that the Indian government's crackdown in Kashmir is good for human rights and that it's also good for the rights of women. So there was a bit of an exchange on that front, and then you had Aarti Tikku actually retorting to this, to what the Congresswoman had said, and she says, my record is clear. I have lashed out at every single government for the last couple of years in Kashmir and raised questions about various issues. So yes, this video has also gone viral online, and a lot of people commenting on this. So it's been a very interesting day with the US House. They're holding this congressional hearing and saying that yes, it is a humanitarian crisis, backing India, however, on its developmental goals in Jammu and Kashmir, and at the same time hitting out at Pakistan, having strong words for Pakistan, saying they need to crack down on terror groups in Pakistan, take action against the Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed. So that is the top story right now on NDTV on YouTube. As you can see, Saurav Ganguly taking charge as the BCCI chief today is also another interesting story which has people commenting on it. First time you had a cricketer taking the helm at the BCCI. But another interesting story has been this more than 2 children, no government job in Assam. And this is something the Assam government has just passed, saying that people who have more than 2 children will not get a government job there. We're still waiting for more reactions to that news, as it's very interesting. The chief minister in Assam, Mr. Sonowal, interestingly enough, is the 8th child in his family. So he's the chief minister who's actually passed this new rule, more than 2 children, no government jobs in Assam. We'll try and get you more reactions from leaders and from locals to that big development in the northeast in Assam. Well, thank you so much for watching, and remember, do keep logging on to youtube.com/NDTV and do vote for the big story of the day. Goodbye.